बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलाम वालेकुम। तो आज की इस वीडियो में हम ये माया से कुछ इस तरह सवालात करने वाले हैं। आज हम एक दो फिर से माया से बात करने वाले हैं इस टॉपिक पे कि ये प्लीज़ द एवोल्यूशन ऑफ पोलाइटनेस, इस बारे में हम उससे आज बात करने वाले हैं। तो फिर चलिए बगैर टाइम जाए कि वीडियो को शुरू करते हैं। हेलो, हाउ आर यू? Yeah, I'm also doing great. So I just wanna ask you some questions. Okay, so Maya, why do we call please the magic word? What kind of magic does it actually do?
Kids to be polite.
Nothing. So another question is that if please is a magic word, what happens if we forgot to say it? Does the magic break?
Oh, absolutely. The magic doesn't exactly break, but the vibe shifts. It's like you've accidentally skipped the password to get into someone's good graces. You might still get what you want, but the person helping you might feel more like a vending machine than a human being. Do you think people are more likely to be annoyed or just indifferent when someone forgets their manners?
Okay, so another question is that do monsters like Cookie Monster always say please, or did they have to learn it too?
Now, that is a great question. I suspect Cookie Monster is a bit more of a act first, eat later kind of guy. He's definitely got a heart of gold. But when there's a cookie on the line, I imagine his patience for etiquette is pretty thin. Probably had to learn it the hard way. Probably through a lot of no cookies until you say please moments.
Okay, so another question is that do you think saying please sounds different when you say it with a big smile?
Oh, totally. It's like the difference between actually wanting something and just checking a box to be polite. A smile turns it from a request into a genuine invitation. And it's way harder for someone to say no when they can see you're actually excited or happy to be asking. Do you find that you're more likely to help someone if you can tell they're genuinely being sweet about it?
Yes. Okay, so next question is that can you say please by just using your hands or any sign language?
Definitely. Um, in American Sign Language, for example, there's a specific sign for please. You put your flat hand on your chest and move it in a circle. It's a beautiful way to communicate without needing any words at all. I wonder if that feels even more personal since it's coming from the heart, literally.
Okay, so another question is that why does it feel so nice when someone says please to you?
I think it's because it makes you feel valued. Instead of feeling like you're just being used for a favor, it feels like the other person actually appreciates your time and effort. It turns a transaction into a connection, which is a much better feeling. Do you think most people appreciate it, or is it just a few of us who still care about those little things?
Okay, so the next question is that is please a word for kids or do grown-ups have to use it just as much?
Ooh, definitely grown-ups too. It's funny how we're taught it as a kid role, but it's actually more important as an adult because you don't have the cute factor working in your favor anymore. When a toddler says please, it's adorable. When a grown adult demands something without it, it just comes off as entitled. I think it's one of those things that keeps the world from feeling too cold and transactional. Do
Okay,
you think
so
adults who stop saying it are just trying to be efficient, or are they just forgetting their manners?
they're just forgetting their manners, I think. Okay, so the next question is that Maya, did people thousands of years ago, like the ancient Romans or Egyptians, have a word for please?
I bet they did. Because regardless of where or when you lived, the basic human struggle of wanting something from someone else is universal. Even in ancient times, people realized that if you're too pushy, You're probably not going to get that extra loaf of bread or favor from the neighbor. It's just a basic social lubricant that helps things run smoothly without everyone fighting all the time. I wonder if they had their own versions of no cookies until you say please back then, too.
Okay, so the next question is that did people in medieval times get in trouble if they weren't polite?
Oh, for sure. In medieval times, politeness wasn't just about being nice, it was often about survival and status. If you were a peasant and you weren't respectful to a lord, you could get thrown in a dungeon or lose your land. It was way more high stakes than just getting a side eye today. I wonder if the stricter rules actually made people more genuine when they finally got to relax with their own friends.
Okay, so the next question is that Maya, when did please become a standard word that everyone used, not just royal people?
That's a tricky one to pin down to a single date. It probably happened as the middle class grew and people started valuing politenesses as a way to show they were refined, not just because they were scared of a king. It became less about following a strict royal code and more about just being a decent person to others. I bet it felt like a huge shift in how people viewed each other. Do you think we're moving back toward a world where we care less about those formalities?
I'm not too much. Okay, so another question is that are there any old forgotten politeness words that people used to say but don't anymore?
I'm sure there are a few. I bet there are some gems hidden in old books like Prithee from the time of Shakespeare, which was basically a shortcut for I pray thee. It's just a fancy way of saying please that makes you sound like you're in a period drama. Wonder if we'd actually use those today, or if we just think the person was doing a bit,
Okay, so the
right?
next question I just want to ask you is that why do you think that humans felt the need to invent a specific word just for making requests?
I think it's because humans are wired for cooperation. If you just state what you want, it can feel like an order, and humans generally don't like feeling controlled. By creating a specific word for requests, we basically invented a way to signal, I'm not your boss, and I'm acknowledging that you're doing me a favor. It's like a social safety valve that prevents friction before it even starts. Do you think we'd be more or less stressed if we just stopped using those kinds of social signals and were completely direct?
Yeah, it can be possible. Okay, so the next question I just want to ask you is that Maya, do all languages have a direct translation for the word please?
That's a fascinating question. I don't think every language has a single word that does exactly what please does in English. Some languages use different phrases or verb endings to make a request polite rather than having one specific magic word. It's more about the way you frame the entire sentence to show respect. I wonder if that makes those languages feel more fluid and less like you're just adding a tag to the end of a request.
So the next question is that are there any cultures where saying please too much is actually considered rude or any awkward situation?
Actually, yeah, I think that exists. In some cultures, especially in very close knit families or between best friends, being too formal can actually feel like you're creating distance. It's almost like you're treating them like a stranger instead of someone you love. In those cases, overusing please can come off as cold or even passive aggressive, like you're being too polite just to make a point. Do you ever feel like being too polite with someone actually makes things feel more awkward?
Yeah, sometimes it can happen. Okay, so another question is that in some languages like Arabic or Hindi or any other language, are there any different words for please depending on who you are talking to?
Oh, for sure. In languages like Hindi or Urdu, it's a huge deal. You have different levels of formality depending on whether you're talking to a friend, an elder, or someone you really respect. It's not just about the word please, but about how you address the person entirely to show that respect. I bet it adds a whole other layer of meaning to the conversation. Do you find that the different levels of formality in Urdu make it feel more personal or more restrictive?
Feel more personal or restrictive. Okay, so the next question is that how do different cultures show politeness without words like bowing or using specific hand gestures?
Oh, there's so many ways. Bowing is a big one, especially in Japan and Korea, where the angle of the bow can actually tell you exactly how much respect is being shown. Then you've got things like offering a gift with both hands or avoiding direct eye contact in some cultures to show humility. It's like a whole silent language that speaks volumes without anyone having to say a word. I wonder if you think those kinds of nonverbal cues are easier to read than words?
Okay, so is it true that the some languages put the word please part inside the verb itself instead of using a separate word?
I think so. Some languages use what's called honorifics or specific verb conjugations that basically bake the politeness right into the grammar. So instead of adding a please at the end, the way you change the word itself tells the other person, I'm asking this with respect. It's like the politeness is the engine of the sentence rather than just a little accessory. Do you think that makes the request feel more natural than just adding a magic word at the end?
Yeah, it can make the request feel more natural. Okay, so another question is that Maya, how does the concept of hospitality in the different parts of the world changes how people say please?
That's such a thoughtful angle. In places with a really deep culture of hospitality, like in the Middle East or parts of South Asia, please can almost become redundant because the act of giving or helping is already expected as a matter of honor. It's less about the individual request and more about the shared value of taking care of a guest. In those environments, the warmth and the welcome do the talking. So the word please might take a back seat to a genuine smile or a welcoming gesture. I wonder if you think that makes the interaction feel more like a family connection than a formal request.
Okay, so yeah, it can feel like formal request. Okay, so another question is that do some cultures use phrases like "do me a favor" to do me a favor instead of using a formal word for please?
All the time. It's a great way to soften the blow of a request. By framing it as a favor, you're highlighting the other person's kindness and generosity rather than just asking for a result. It turns the ask into something they can feel good about doing. Do you find yourself using that more often when you're asking for something a bit bigger?
Yeah, it can be. Okay, so another question I just wanna ask you is that how do different languages show extra politeness when they are asking for like any big favor?
Usually they'll start stacking the politeness. They'll use more formal titles, add qualifiers like, I'm so sorry to bother you, or use a very indirect way of asking so the other person has an easy way to say no without feeling guilty. It's like building a soft cushion around the request so it doesn't feel too heavy. I wonder if you think being super indirect is actually more polite or if it just makes the conversation take longer than it needs to.
Yeah, it can make the conversation take longer than more it needs to. Okay, so another question is that Maya, can you teach us how to say please in three different languages from around the globe, around the whole world?
I'd love to. First, we've got s'il vous plaît in French, which just sounds so elegant. Then there's por favor in Spanish, which is a total classic. And for something a bit different, we can go with kudasai in Japanese, which is often used when you're asking for something specific. Which one of those sounds the most natural to you?
Okay, so another final question, so another last question. I just wanna ask you. I'm asking you that Maya, what do you think the word please will look or sound like 100 years in the future?
That is such a cool thing to imagine. I think as we keep moving toward faster and more digital ways of talking, the word itself might shrink or even evolve into a sound or a symbol. But honestly, I think the core feeling behind it, that moment where you acknowledge someone else's kindness, will always stay the same, even if the word please becomes an ancient relic. Maybe we'll just have some kind of universal emotional signal that tells the other person we're asking with respect. Do you think we'll still care about politeness in 100 years, or will we just be too efficient for all that?
We can be polite like after hundreds of years ago. Okay, so today it was nice talking to you. We'll talk to you. I will talk to you later. तो हाँ, फिर आज की इस वीडियो में इतना ही था। अगर आप लोगों को ये वीडियो पसंद आई तो इस वीडियो को लाइक करना मत भूलिएगा, शेयर करना मत भूलिएगा, चैनल को भी सब्सक्राइब करना मत भूलिएगा ऐसे ऐसे रिलेटेड वीडियोस देखने के लिए। तो आज की इस वीडियो में इतना ही था। मिलते हैं आपसे नेक्स्ट वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफिज़।